I'm happy to say I know everybody on the panel. That's not true for every board so far, but I certainly know everybody in the meeting today. And thanks for taking the time to hear my requests. Excuse me. I've only got two items that are different than the last presentation last year. The obsolescence replacement plan for the police department, I've requested that we bump that funding level up by an additional $30,000, and that money is intended to support needs that are related to the in-vehicle video and body camera system that annually the prices are going up. And that's, I'm hoping that that will be enough to cover the ongoing stuff. And, the chief and I have been working on suitable replacements. I'm sure they'll have something to add on that at some point. But the 30,000 is really just for the additional costs that we expect. And as I said, I hope that'll be enough for the ongoing annual implementations. And then the other thing that I've got that's a new project here, and the telephone system upgrade that I'm looking for. There is an existing amount of money in a telephone upgrade account of about $60,000, maybe 61,000 is the balance. That was part of a project that began with the police department's phone system replacement and some upgrades for town campus as well. Excuse me, that was a few years back. And I intend to use, it doesn't show as the current year there. I'm not sure. I have it in the detail page, I think, on that one. But it was a $60,000 current in progress. I'd like to use that money to acquire the services of an independent consultant to assist with evaluating our needs and helping us to create and evaluate an RFP. It's usually a pretty large project when you're doing that. Yeah, there's the 61,324 balance that's currently in progress. And I put this in year 2 so that we could use the existing in progress money probably between now and next year, 22, 23. As I said, to work on some design and RFP development. The reason that this is a necessary thing is that there's two pieces of legislation that are somewhat related. One is Carey's Law and the other is Ray Baum Act. And both of those are related to requirements that any changes we make. Right now, we have a July 1 deadline, but right now, if we don't make any changes to our phone system, we'll be grandfathered in for the time being and not in violation. But we can't go without addressing this situation. It's related to the E911, the capability of the phone system to not just deliver the address where the phone is, but also if it's a building with multiple offices or multiple floors, you have to be able to identify the room that the phone call came from. And of course, these are landlines only, and that's, it's a requirement. It's a good thing for safety, and we really need to address it. So I do believe that 200,000 is a reasonable number just based on the experience we had with the phone system in the police department. But we'll certainly have a little bit of time to make sure of that once we get a consultant on board to take a look at it. So those are really the two increase requests that I've got, and I'm happy to try and answer any of your questions.
May I ask a question? And I'm, nice to see you, Art. I've got to get back on board on all this. The 200,000 you're requesting is in the CIP for next year.
Yes.
Correct. And you're just moving it up by a year, or are you also bringing in, or those are new dollars that you're requesting?
The 61,000 is in there now.
Right.
And I'm requesting not in 22, 23, but in 23, 24, I'm requesting 200.
Okay, I see that there. Okay.
And that should give us a sufficient amount of time to really do, act on the design piece of it, and then bid it out.
Good morning, Art.
Hi, Al.
Art, I have to applaud you for some very modest requests here. I'd like to actually take the conversation in the opposite direction. With the world increasingly moving into a new technology era, are there any things we should be really thinking big about at this point that aren't reflected in CIP yet?
Well, I think that, one of the directions that I want to take the technology department in is changing our email systems over off of our on-premise hosted Exchange server and moving them to a cloud-based email system, something either related to Office 365 or to Google. And Google is something that, is a realistic thing, certainly for the school district, because the school's already using, the G Suite products, which are now called, Google Workspace. And it's, Google Drive and Sheets and all the different tools that come with Google, but they use Google Meets, they use Google Classroom. And Gmail is included in the enterprise version that they have to have anyway. So while there would be some additional costs as far as archiving and backing them up, it wouldn't be too significant, but we would be looking at a reasonable expense. So maybe, I don't even want to throw out a number yet, but within the next year or two, I'm thinking that we'll be looking at that through our operational budget, because we do have dollars in there that support our on-premise solution. So I would be hoping to substitute some of those things. And if we do ask for more in capital, it'll be, possibly it would be a hopefully modest request at that point. But that is a cybersecurity concern of ours that I believe that we would actually be, with the thin staff that we do have that supports all of these network devices, I think it would be best to get the Exchange server, off of our current network. And there's a lot of great security that's been available in Gmail and Office 365, Outlook in the cloud, multi-factor authentication, all the important stuff. So that's one of the things that I'll be looking at. And that may go into a capital request, Al. I'm not 100% sure. And everything that we've been trying to do, we've been moving into the cloud. And I think that that's probably our best solution, especially with wanting to keep everybody with the ability to work from home, work from anywhere, and rather than having to get inside our network. I think that if we select carefully and get some good products, we're moving on the right direction, getting it into the cloud. So that's sort of the direction we're going in. There may be some related expenditures, and certainly we're always upgrading firewalls and things like that. And right now that's out of the obsolescence plan town with the $75,000 a year cost. And you may see us bump that request up next year a little bit also.
Thanks, Art. Are there any applications or ways we can help our constituents interact with town government in the future?
Well, Al, I think we're doing a fair amount of e-government solution, taking the e-government solution approach. And any of the products that we're buying now are with the intent of making documents more accessible, services more accessible, and that sort of thing. So, I mean, we've got a lot of permitting online. You can pay your taxes online. You can look up a lot on the assessment system online. You can do some GIS. There's an awful lot of stuff going on. And the platform that we've chosen for our web hosting, our content management system, is Civic Plus. When we started with them a number of years ago, they were, they had a pretty good market share and were growing. Right now, they're huge. They've really acquired, a number of different companies and services that we could take some advantage of. But I think that the Civic Plus platform has a lot of opportunity there for us a lot of tools for us to use with citizen interaction as well.
So,
May I
Art,
get-
oh, sorry.
Go No, go ahead.
You said specifically that there was capability for them to track on a landline. And I know that from a corporate standpoint, we converted from land phones to cellular phones, actually even in the office. It looks like a real phone, but it's cellular.
Mhm.
So like I can literally, I have an office phone in my home now, and I have an office phone at the office, and when it rings, it comes into both.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of look to that kind of technology where there'd be more flexibility if people are working from home, where it's a true, rather than forwarding a call or something like that? Is that in place, or could that be something in the future?
Well, that would be something that I would expect to see in the next phone system that we acquire. You know, they're all basically IP-based phone systems now.
Mm.
We have digital phones and a mix of IP phones from the last project we did, but you know, certainly those capabilities are present. And you know, voicemail seems like an archaic thing these days, but the integration of that is, you know, also something I'd like to see that we improve. But you know, you can have your office phone ring on your computer. You know, we should be able to have it ring at home on your computer if that's what, you know, we need to do. So that's the kind of technology we want to move towards also.
Thank you.
Art, may I just ask you
Thank
a step further out here with knowing we're going to have the ARPA money and there's an opportunity here, thinking outside of the box of CIP. This could be a transformational opportunity in many areas, and especially in technology. Can you off the top of your head say, is there an opportunity here for us to use any of this ARPA money to get you where we should be in this town sooner?
Well, you know, I mean, I would love to see some of that with, I'd like to talk to Chief Drum about that with regards to the availability of funds for different, for the video projects that we've been talking about. And I'd certainly think that, you know, I don't know that we could call it COVID related, perhaps if it's all related to being able to work remotely and that sort of thing. Phone system might be something we could look at there. As far as software is concerned, I think that you know, some document management, making it available for the employees more than anyone, as far as just working remotely. But you know, we're actually doing a fair amount. I don't know that everybody's aware of how many things they can do remotely, you know, right now, but we've been moving along, and I think that, you know, one of the directions that we want to go is when we start to replace desktop computers, we want those to be replaced with laptops and docking stations. And you know, we bumped a little bit of the obsolescence plan up last year with that in mind. We didn't make a very drastic change, but the idea would be that you'd work off of a laptop with a docking station. You'd have a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor if you want one in the office. But then you take your, you know, when you leave for the day, you take your laptop off the docking station and take it with you. And, you know, that could be to continue your work from home. And we've done a number of upgrades to our firewalls for the ability to connect remotely and securely. So we've got two-factor authentication access for the employees now. So you know, there's always money that we could use. We could certainly advance some of the hardware that we're getting. I'm relatively satisfied with the cycle that we're on. I think that we could see a little bit more money though. You know, the problem when you buy 150 laptops all at once is that now you have 150 laptops that are all the same age. And, you know, you have to come up with the money again in a big lump sum. So it's a good thing when you get it, especially if you get it from a grant. But we also need to plan for the replacement of those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? Thank you for being here today, Art.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. I think we see you again at some point, don't we?
I'm
Maybe.
not sure. I don't think so, but
Okay.
you'll see me for my town budget, and my school budgets.
That's what it is.
There
You're
we
right.
go.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, so moving on in our agenda, and Justin, thank you very much. You are all frozen for me, but at least I have the phone is pretty steady. So thank you. So we're moving on in the agenda to Chief Drum, I believe. Is he with us? Or am I just not hearing him?
I think you're up, Jack.
Hey, hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
guess we'll-
Chief. Thank you for being here.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Very good. Okay, so I guess we'll start with the update to what's already currently in CIP. In year 22-23, we'll be making the final payment to phase 2 of the Motorola project, which started approximately 7 years ago. Phase 2, you might recall, and those who weren't on different boards at the time, there's a tower structure, the infrastructure that runs the public safety communication network throughout the town. We, at the time, contracted with Motorola, took an attractive financing, which I believe was a little bit less than 2%. And we spread it out over approximately so many years. So this is the last payment of those scheduled in CIP for the year 23-24. In addition to that, phase 3 is the subscriber equipment. That's the handheld radios and the mobile units that are in the vehicles that are fixed. Those units were distributed between the ambulance and the fire department. And those are also on a schedule for repayment. In the year 22-23, it's 156,856, and that carries on to year 24-25. The subscriber equipment for the police department, which we did not put our equipment into use immediately when we did the contract with Motorola. I wanted to extend the life of the present radios that we had, seeing that they were working at the time. So we initiated this present year and next year, 2 payments and split it because obviously our need was a little bit less than the other units for combined for the town. And the first payment we made was approximately 73 change. And this for the upcoming correction for this year, 43,399, and that retires that debt. Any questions on the radios?
I was like, no.
I see that there's no projection out from 23 to 27. That's kind of a space where we start to gather and save for the future years.
I had a hard time, was breaking up, Joan, I apologize.
So I see that there's nothing in 25 through 27, and we're funding because we're saving up for the next round of upgrades in future years, correct?
Well, that would be correct, yes. We have if you might recall, we have a tower that we're using that expires, and probably Gus Horvath knows more about how it came into being, but it's the old police department, Route 79 old tower. That tower serves it's a very vital location because it services most of the Route 1 corridor for all the services. And that agreement expires in January of 2025, or December 2025, is January 26th. Subsequently, we're trying to find out that we're going to be able to get extension, or we have to do some alternative, build our own tower. That discussion started about 1.5 years ago. We're still having an open discussion with the property owner. We had a meeting as late as last week to discuss it. So we're moving along slowly but cautiously. You know?
Jack, when we sold the police station, the old police station, we didn't sell the cell tower with it. How did that get out of town hands? I thought the town kept that.
Noreen, I apologize. I don't know. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
You see if I can repeat myself. When we sold the old police station, did you hear that?
Yes, I do. Yep.
I remember we separated out the cell tower. Gus might know this. How did it happen? I mean, so you're saying that cell tower near the police station is not owned by the town?
The best that I could recall, and that's talking to some of the folks that served in previous boards, what we do have for paperwork is that was sold for X amount of dollars to a contractor from the town of Guilford.
Okay,
His understanding is that he has the tower property also, and he's contracted up to that period of time I explained, terminating within a couple of years, 3 years, to Atlantic Towers. They have many vendors on that. The town receives annual income from that, approximately $250,000 a year. That expires also on that date I speak of. It was kind of, we didn't have a lot of supporting paperwork within the town records. So I reached out to people that were in office at the time. I reached out to Tom Scarpati. I talked to some of the people that I call government historians. Gus, that's you. And to kind of clarify some things. So right now we're still going through that with their lawyer and what we could derive from the town attorney. Once again, as I said, we're just very cautious as we move forward before we present anything to the boards.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Chief Trent?
I'm always impressed with Noreen's memory, and Chief, have we actually, are we sure that we don't own that tower?
Well, the meeting the other day, their attorney was telling me that the tower will transfer with the property if hypothetically, I'm not saying we are, the town were to take the property back. I don't have documents to follow that. And I've been researching this now with Sam DeBurr, put a lot of time trying to find out what the actual answer to that is. Now, it's a little more it's farther more deep than just looking at town records for taxes. The companies switch between vendors as to who maintain it over that period of time. We don't have a lot of documentation to support what we believe in that. So I went and I talked to Thomas Scarpati, who said the same thing you said, Al, that's separated, and that Noreen said that property is separated, and that tower is maintained. Well, the property is maintained by the vendor, but the town supposedly owns that. I don't have anything to the contrary or anything to support that during that sale, that was the understanding. We'll get there.
Jack, I recall we sold that property to a dentist. I actually think I have his name. If I can get his name. And it's and I know that property was separated. I just don't know at that point if the town owned the cell tower or we just protected it so that whoever did own it, we were protected our rights. But I know the person who bought that property originally did not, that cell tower was not included. I'm positive of that.
That's very valuable information because it's owned right now. I want to say it's Russo, the builder, and they're of a different opinion. Listen, we're not going to. We'll do our due diligence.
Okay.
I was able to find Tommy Scarpati and talk to him from Florida, and I think I talked to Ron Clark. I talked to various people that would give me what they believe. It's the same. The town. What you said is what the understanding is. I just need to find that in black and white in the agreements. You know, as I said, it's moved between owners and over the 25-year period. Maybe the original partner in it stepped out and it's now just this builder Russo, but he's very interested in getting out of the property. I just don't, I'm trying to mitigate, and I'm trying to find the best solution for us when this does expire. And I'm trying to mitigate the expense to the town, if any at all.
Jack, one of the things that you could check, maybe you already done it, but it hasn't been mentioned. The tax collector might be able to tell us who's paying taxes if it is owned by a private entity and not the town. And maybe through that opening, you might be able to find out what the ownership is. But the last I remembered is pretty much just what you guys explained. At the time that property was put up for sale, the town split off where the tower was because of the collecting the $250,000 a year rental. So, you know, it was a point of profit for the town.
Yeah.
So they wanted to keep their hands on it. I didn't realize that had a time limit to it. I thought it went forever. But one of the sources, if you haven't already looked at it, would be the tax collector to find out if there is taxes being paid on the land under the tower or the tower itself, or both of them together. And, you know, what entity is paying the taxes on the land and or the tower.
Yeah, I believe Atlantic is the company paying the taxes right now and is managing the tower.
Okay.
They're very difficult to talk to with a phone call. I would probably have more success talking to the head of China than I would getting these people on the phone. A good example is when Clinton went on.
They probably don't know.
They're a conglomerate. They're very difficult. When poor Clinton, they took them 2.5 years to get the reduction in their rent on Ridge Road because these people are impossible to deal with. And what they do is just kind of, they keep filing off letters and everything, but you try to find the source. It's very difficult. So jokingly, I say I would have more luck talking to somebody in China. But I'm pursuing it. Sam's pursuing it. We're on it. We started now because as we spoke last year to putting money aside, as if we had to build a tower, without a town property down somewhere, that Route 1 corridor, we just want to be prepared to do it, because if the switch turns and we're no longer on the tower in the year 2025, then we have to be prepared, because that's critical, that location, or a couple within, we'll say a quarter mile from there, would still be able to work within a microwave system, still maximize the system we have, and still talk to some of the other regional partners that we have. So that's paramount for that. So we're working on it. The pile keeps getting bigger, but we'll get an answer.
Well, if anybody could do it, I would imagine it's you, Chief. Can you just repeat again when the lease expires?
Oh, God. I'm going to have to get a set of headphones. I'm sorry.
December of
No,
25, the lease
Thank you.
expires.
Thank you.
December of what?
25.
25, right, Jack?
Yeah, so as of January 26, technically, we no longer have rights in that tower, based on what we have in the contract for the tower company.
Jack, I sent you the name of the dentist. To see if maybe we could start there. That originally bought it when it was separated. I don't know where it went from after that. Good luck.
Are there any other questions for Chief on the communications?
Katie, I just had a quick question. Chief
Sure.
Drum.
Of course.
When Art was talking about that 61,000, I think it was transferred from a completed project of the police phone upgrade. Where would that have come out of? Because the numbers on the communication that we're looking at now, they look like they're all the same from last year. So do you know where that came from, or is that an Art question?
The 61,000 that Art was talking about?
Yeah, like that I think it says it moved from, it was left over from a completed police phone system project. So I was just like, where was that last year that it would, where has it moved out of, if anywhere?
It's all part of the technology fund under Art Sickle. It doesn't have anything to do with this fund. So it was assigned to that project. Art spent what he needed to, and that was a remainder that he wants to put towards a new phone project.
Okay. All right.
1819, that started.
Are we ready to move on to the police vehicle replacement? Chief.
Okay, thank you. Vehicle replacement schedule continues we're on schedule. We recently, last year, we replaced vehicle patrol vehicles 1 through 4. This year, we replaced 5 through 8. We did move some vehicles around, reassigned. This schedule, when I stated when we first introduced the car replacement schedule post 2011, we most certainly have extended the life of our cars. We have some cars that are still out there that are in their 7th year, still viable. We use them for construction. We use them for the SRO program. They're static at the school. Those that are using construction, you might recall that we charge a premium for a contractor, for a car, an officer, the insurances, and of course the rate. So I like to keep the vehicles, not put them on the road if they're unsafe, but I try to get as much use out of them that I can, so I could get a net value back to the highway construction, what we charge, we get in revenue from the vendor. As those cars, if they become unsafe, we're not going to put heavy dollars into them. We'll retire them at that point. But when you try to trade them in, when they still have a few good miles on them, they're only going to offer you $1,500, $2,000. And I can get a lot more of that over a few years, just charging to have it on construction sites.
Any follow-up questions on this item?
Can I just make a comment? So we did that, the Board of Selectmen, we did approve making some modifications to the fund, as well as a purchase of some cameras. Jack, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, and will that change your request at this point for the additional needs?
I think Madison has had cameras in our vehicles, one of the oldest in the state. We've had them body cams within the last 11 years, 12 years. Under the Police Accountability Transparency Task Force in the Act, the 43 points of reform, one of them focuses on use of body cams and car cameras, where legislation has changed, and it becomes effective in July 1st of 2022, where we normally used to store for 30 days on a server, we now have to store for up to 90 days, and if it's an event, up to 2 years. In addition to that, there has to be cameras in basically every vehicle that we operate on as a police department, as well as the officer would identify if he's wearing an outer garment, he or she has to have all the identifications, which is something we've done right along. The conundrum for us in the town is that back in the spring, we would have ordered the 5 cameras we needed for the cars, except that the company we had, WatchGuard, which is a good company, got purchased by Motorola. And at this point, I'm going to use the term, they've become confused because there isn't any, they have a new technology curve. They're not able to supply us what we need for the cars back in the spring. And most certainly they still haven't come forward as to if we stayed with that company, what would we be looking at, and particularly dollars. Our timeline is that I'm going to have to start migrating from the old system to the new system, which is Coban. They're made in Texas. There's no dependence on offshore. They're used by a lot of agencies in the country. They're very competitive. It's also the federal bid. And I gotta have the product. 5 we ordered today, I have in 6 weeks. The cost overall from point A to point B in the migration, and these first 5 cameras would be the first phase, we'll call it, of that migration. Overall cost is almost $500,000. So we're trying to do, and this is all in, this is using the cloud, no longer maintaining a server or servers. Maintaining the cloud for storage. I've always been against that, but they seem to be as acceptable now for evidence, so I'm going to go with it. If there's if something doesn't work or they have a crash, it's not, the onus is not on us. We take that responsibility and liability and expense away from us, put it into a package, and we do it over a 5-year period. So the start for this would be the 5 cameras. I'm going to put some numbers forward with my budget in the next few days, because I'm still waiting for final numbers from the vendors, that we might do partial replacement within the CIP, but I don't have those numbers for you as of yet.
Okay,
May I ask
Just
you, Katie, may I ask a question?
please.
I understand about the 5 new cameras, but the cameras we have now, with the change, are we able to maintain those with the new company?
The cameras we have now, they need to be upgraded, and they're not, the technology's not there. I can't, I would have to establish a whole new server system for them, that expense. And I don't think that'd be prudent. The way we structure it, similar to how I do the cars, I phase them in. I migrate them in at so many cars at a time. I'm phasing out of using the server for a portion of the fleet immediately, and eventually we'll shut down the server and we'll be strictly in the cloud with all new technology in the cameras.
But
The beauty
Jack,
of-
my question is to you is, as you phase them out, can you service the old ones that we're going to continue to use till they're phased out?
They can no longer be serviced.
So are we going to have to do more than 5 then?
Well,
I know that's only part of it, the cameras, everything else with the storage and the maintaining the cloud and all, it's part of it, but doesn't sound like, I mean, you're talking a camera in every vehicle and you're saying none of them can be maintained any longer?
if we were to turn the key and just buy everything now, if you're looking at about $493,000. If we were to do that, I would strongly recommend that we use some of our resources that we do for financing, because we're paying a little over 1.5, and that we mitigate, we put it out there for 2 to 5 years. And we just have to put it on a regular replacement schedule. As opposed to using a lease ownership with the vendor, which is probably going to be charging us 5 to 7% interest.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
So yeah, just as Stacy was mentioning, I watched the Board of Selectmen meeting, but was there some movement with some of these numbers, Chief? I think you were going to hold off on a new canine vehicle to maybe help pay for some of this new camera equipment. Is that reflected in our schedule yet, Stacy? No. Okay.
Not yet, Justin. I can open it up though, if you want to see. We do have it, so I can open that up if you want to see how it was revised. Just give me a second. So this is a change that we made. We took out or moved the canine.
No, canine's gone.
Oh, the canine replacement up here. This one's
Blank, is it?
gone. And then we did a line transfer. This still needs to go to the Board of Finance
Yes.
on Wednesday though. And then, but this is the revised fund showing that we're gonna buy the 5 vehicles for the
Right.
60,000 there. And then we took out the 32 here.
Right.
What is this?
Right. So between the K9 and the technology line transfer, that's more than enough to cover the 60. But is that K9 vehicle really gone or just moved out to a later year?
It's going to be moved out at some point later year if we continue fully in the program. Another out of the Police Accountability Transparency Task Force, out of the Accountability Task Force, the 43 points of reform. The the point that refers to motor vehicle stops is diminishing the use of dogs in the state of Connecticut. They don't want the dogs to be used in crowd control, except specialized unit within the Connecticut State Police. They do not want the dogs being used as a form of intimidation or motor vehicle stop. They don't want the dogs being used to be put in a car for search unless there's exigent circumstances with evidence in plain view. So outside of searching for items from maybe evidence or somebody lost, we may not have as a robust canine program. And legislation is driving that, not the town of Madison.
What a shame.
Right.
Oh, that's so sad.
But just from a financial standpoint, so should we have that number in year, 2023 or 23, 24, or might we not need to replace that vehicle, I guess is that what we're saying?
Well, what we've done in the off year of when the vehicle's paid off and the vehicle's still in use, the year we do not make a payment, generally is the year we use the funds to purchase a canine car, an administrative car. That's the pattern over the last 11 years. And that's what we worked into the replacement schedule. So we make 4 to 5 payments, depending on how we structure it for each phase of cars. Payments X amount of dollars. In the case here, they're both close to 50,000 plus or minus. So there's going to be a year, if you carry it out to, I want to say year 24, 25, there isn't any payments. If you look at year 22, 23 and year 22, 23, we're making payments. We're making the final 2 payments on 22, 23, 23, 24. Then the second phase, the next 4 cars, that payment expires in 24, 25. So an opportunity to replace an administrative car or a canine car would be in that year, 24, 25, or the following year. And you got to remember, we've also extended the life of our cars by the rotation method that we're using. So where they used to have cars every 3 years, we're 5 to 7 years of some of the cars, and they're safe on the road.
No, I get all that. I'm just asking, the number was removed, so should it be reinserted somewhere, or, it's not off the table. It's just, it was removed. The canine vehicle was removed from this year. So should it be reinserted somewhere at a later year?
It
So
could be,
there
or
is-
it would be a play saver at this point. I mean, the dollars amount that we put in that fund is static, with the exception of production costs that increase or finance costs that increase.
So there is a replacement, Jack, for your second canine vehicle in year 3. So if we did need it, could we use that for the first one and then push out the second vehicle?
Okay, but
Yes.
in past discussions, we've talked the canine vehicle or administrative vehicle. It's almost one and the same. It's just the off year we outright purchased a vehicle that we don't put into the replacement fund lease option that we exercise.
So you can see on the screen in year 3 for the canine vehicle 2, we can always reassign that to vehicle 1, and then maybe vehicle 2 we can have in year 6.
The dollar amount is
Yeah,
staying the
that's
same.
all. That's what I'm just asking. Those were already in there, obviously, even with the one this year. So that's the question. Do we think we still need this, canine vehicle now, or might that just be, we'll just forego that and maybe we'll get one in 3 years? Is it gone completely, or is it going to come back? That's all I'm trying to.
No, I
ascertain.
think that
To answer the question, it will return at some point. If we still have a canine program, it'll return. If not, it'll be an administrative replacement. Same dollar amount with the actual vehicle.
at the selectmen's meeting, we talked about, is this a postponement, or is it we're getting rid of it?
Right.
And I think we all agree that this is more of a postponement. We don't have enough information to say we're getting rid of it totally. I think we actually even changed the word in the vote.
Right, but it's not on the schedule anywhere. So the schedule would suggest that it's removed rather
Well,
than
it's
postponed.
2024, 25. Justin, it isn't 35,000 in 2024, 25 for the second replacement K9 vehicle? That's still there.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can, we
right.
can always reallocate that, Justin, to your point, move the 35 up to vehicle 2. And then for year 6, vehicle 2 would be replaced unless the program does change. So we can modify that. If that's all right with you, Jack.
Well, in the off year, the 24, 25 or 25, 26, that would be the opportunity to buy a non-patrol vehicle. Absent K2, a K9 vehicle or a administrative vehicle, one or the other. So that would be the margin of opportunity at that point to outright purchase it. It's lesser dollars than the vehicle itself is lesser dollars. If it's administrative, it's more dollars if it's a K9 car.
So right now though, Jack, there's actually an administrative vehicle and a K9 replacement in year 3, just so you know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm focusing the wrong way, but I look at the dollar amount, what it costs the citizens of the town to replace the vehicles on a schedule. And so it's almost like it's just, it may not be a K9 vehicle at that time. I may have a more need for administrative car at that time. So that's how I try to manage the fleet and move it around and try to maximize how far I can go. We just did a major repair on a K9 vehicle because the K9 vehicle is not just the car. The equipment that goes in a K9 vehicle almost is as much as the car. That cage alone that holds that dog with the venting system and the release system, it's like $14,000.
But Jack, as we look at the problems with the police accountability bill, I think leaving money there, not knowing, obviously some corrections are going to be made. This legislation is filled with problems. So I think down the road, knowing that this might be something we want to reinstitute, and I shouldn't use that word because we haven't totally done away with it. It might be a wise thing to do, knowing going forward, we might be taking another look at the K9.
Well, maybe we should just place it as an administrative replacement at that point. And if it becomes a K9 car at that time, we'll call it a K9 car. It's an administrative replacement. Does that help, Justin?
I'm just asking the question. It was removed from the schedule, so if it's still going to be needed at some point, then we should have it in the schedule. That's all. I'm not arguing the need or the strategy. It's just we removed it, so I didn't know if that we've made the decision or the determination that it will never be needed, or that maybe next year we will need a vehicle.
That's a strong possibility. I agree with you. But I can't answer that right now. I'll know more after July 1st of 2022 to see where it goes. They're sending the what the task force subcommittees, they're sending that to the General Assembly. They'll convene, general law will look at it, and they'll come up with an answer. They may say no, they may change it. But right now, the way that laws, the wording and verbiage, and what's come out of the subcommittees, is they're trying to diminish the encounter with a police officer when he stops you on the road. Not related to this, but if somebody were to stop somebody, they want you to just take action on a primary stop. So that means if I stop somebody for speeding, but the cars are unregistered, that becomes a administrative response. They don't want you towing the car unregistered. They don't want you having any further encounter. Just write the ticket for the speeding. That's where it's going, Justin, or anyone else that cares to know. That's right. Where it's going. So it's going to change the way we do policing, and most certainly. And I can tell you this firsthand because I sit on the accountability task force as a voting member. I also sit on a racial profiling and prohibition project. So I'm there trying to make people measure twice and cut once, and there's a lot of pressure to really minimize the police encounter with citizens. So what really is one of the buzzwords within that community up there is use of canines. So I'm just trying to, as I try to be the visionary, look around the corner so I can bring this back to the town and tell them what's going on, give them a temperature, what's happening up there. That's what I'm doing. So to call it a canine, I will need a support vehicle of some sort, probably within that time frame. Whether it's called canine or administrative, I can't give you an answer right now. Should we budget for it? Yes, we have. The car replacement schedule clearly shows at what point I purchased the cars on the patrol. We did delete the $32K for the K9 car this week because I want to use it to mitigate the cost of the cameras so we get a start on that back to the community.
So I changed the 35,000, Justin. I mean, does this make more sense to everybody? The 35,000 was for the K-9 vehicle 2. So I moved that up to K-9 vehicle 1. And then saying in year 6, we'll put vehicle 2 back in, knowing it's all subject to change, but this way a vehicle's not lost somewhere. Is that better?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, given that this is planning documents, that it kind of lays it out.
Okay.
Justin,
Sure, yeah.
does that help? Okay. Any other questions for our chief?
Except to say thank you for the details. I mean, that's always a lot of good insight coming from you when you come before us as far as what's going on from a technology, but also from a legislative standpoint. And we really appreciate that.
Very much. And thank you for sitting on all those extra committees and being a voice.
Thank you.
You know, may I just reiterate, Katie and Joan, you're so right. A lot of this legislation doesn't even consider small towns, and really to have Jack on there representing all of us, all small towns like that, and what policing is like in small towns, because the hands are being tied every day, and it's really making it hard to be a policeman. So I'm just so thrilled that Jack's on these committees with his perspective.
Thank you. We're going to start the town hall meetings around the state to explain out to people question and answers. I'm doing Hartford next week, and I'm doing West Hartford. And I performed one from the London County NAACP and the Connecticut Bar Association. It's going to be a dramatic change to how we do policing in this, most certainly in this state and beyond. Some good, some we're not used to. There's going to be a lot of change required and accountability. There's going to be expenses put on the communities. And I not to get on a soapbox, but towns that with 20% reserves or AAA Fitch ratings, they're going to comply, get all this done. We don't have a choice. The law says do what you do. A lot of the cities are not even come close. I mean, you have a snapshot of what cameras cost. Imagine Hartford, New Haven, or Bridgeport Police Department trying to equip 300, 400 cameras. $7 million put aside to accomplish that. One department is going to use almost all of that. You know, we talk about, are we going to have to hire a social worker embedded within the police department? And what's that, 68,000 perhaps for an MSW? You know, that may come July 1st. With that answer, right now, we're working with, I'm using interns on stipends, you know, just to formulate a response to that. So it's very fluid. There's a lot of emotion in it. I understand that. I understand the emotion if we were to get rid of the dog program. We love the dogs. They're great. They're a great tool, but our hands get tied if they make it a law. You know, they don't want what they call administrative stops compliance. Somebody didn't pay their car taxes in Branford, Connecticut. Officer Drum stops them on the connector going to the beach. The car's unregistered. There's a non-compliant, I mean, they didn't pay their taxes. One, why are the cops the tax collectors? Two, I have to take that family out of the car, tow the car, and enforce it with a ticket. They want to stop all that. That's what's going on. So, and if you ever get the opportunity to tune into one of those, they're probably a little bit boring, but long-winded meetings, you get a snapshot of what's going on. So I'm just trying to, and this is my style since I walked in the door with you folks, I try to mitigate the expense back to you. I try to find dollars within. I don't like to come in and ask for special appropriations. So it's the board, it's still fluid. The canvas is still wet. So, but thank you for listening.
Again.
Thank you so
for
much.
listening.
No,
Thank you, Chief.
no, thanks for letting us know about the town halls. I'm interested to learn more. So thank you.
All righty.
Any other questions before we move on to citizen comments?
Thank you.
Oh, only I agree that the police shouldn't be doing the tax collecting. I agree, Jack. It's a good thing. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm just pulling the agenda back up. Do we have any citizen comments? I'm guessing there's nobody else online to make a comment. So with
No.
that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Noreen. Second, anyone?
I'll second that.
Al, was that you? Thank you. Very spotty over here.